Hey guys, welcome to the Soul on Fire show, where we are going to ignite the passion within. On this show, we merge spirituality and science, and we bring you to the highest version of yourself, and we tap into realms of you that you never thought you could tap into. Guys, we ignite your passion within, and welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Noelle Agape, and I am here today as your host, and we literally are going to talk about the ego. We're going to talk about working with the ego. We're going to talk about what that looks like, and emotional intelligence. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you those that are on the live. Thank you those that are on the replay. We are always grateful for you to be here. For those of you that don't know me, I am a health and wellness counselor. I'm an NLP Master Trainer. I work with the neurolinguistics of the brain to get you to literally to ignite your soul's purpose and trigger whatever is going on within you. And we work through those. And I am a quantum energy trainer, guys. I work deep into the quantum realms. And we get to play with science and spirituality on this show. So that's why we're here today. And again, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm super excited to have everyone here on the live and everyone on the replay. Today, we're going to go into a topic that's not so easy as if, you know, we're working with the ego. And when we work with the ego, it's not an easy journey at all, right? And I'm a little hoarse today, so I apologize in advance. Fighting a little bit of a cold just with the change of seasons, and I'm trying to work through that and still be live at the same time. So today we're going to talk about an emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about what that looks like. We're going to talk about spiritual maturity and how to actually get to spiritual maturity. We're going to talk about the things that you actually need, and you're going to get some tools to move forward on your journey through. So many people say we have to break the ego. We have to, break down the ego, and the ego is a bad thing. And the ego is actually not a bad thing at all, guys. The ego is a wonderful thing that shows you where you're at energetically and how you can do the internal work to get to a better version of yourself. So again, I am an NLP Master Trainer, and I'm a quantum energy trainer. So we go deep into how spirituality and science merge with each other. And I'll talk a little bit about that before we start to jump into the ego. And so spirituality and science, to me, everything, is super spiritual. I'm a super spiritual person. Everything is God, source, the universe to me. But to me, God is science as well. But my background is, all of my degrees are in science and quantum, psychology and the quantum and understanding different realms of reality. And so my training is really going deep into the quantum. But on this show, I keep it in layman's terms. When I train you one-on-one, or when you work with me one-on-one, it's more, we go deeper into you and your soul's journey and the quantum of that. Yet for today, we're going to talk about what your ego looks like and how to actually work with your ego and how to get to emotional intelligence and spiritual maturity. And so often what happens is that things trigger us in life. And even today, I'm battling to be here on this show, fighting a cold. The bad thing that I wanted to do the most of anything today was just stay in bed and heal and recover. And life happens, right? And so much has happened with me in the last couple of years of my life that has truly allowed me to learn in one aspect and then teach them in another. And the greatest thing in the world, guys, is that even though I've been doing this for 18 years, even though, I still bring wonderful things out to the world as a teacher, I'm always learning on a daily basis. And people are always teaching me on a daily basis. And the greatest thing is that I actually embrace that. I embrace that I have a lesson to learn every single day. I embrace that I have a journey of being a teacher because I have all of this experience and all this knowledge, but I also at the same time get to learn, and I get to respect and honor other people's emotional intelligence and spiritual maturity. I get to guide when I can guide, and I also get to be guided when needed to be guided. And so that's the first step in spiritual maturity, guys, is when you understand that you get to learn and you get to teach simultaneously. And when you are dealing with your ego when you're dealing with your ego and you're dealing with people that have differences of opinion of you, or people that are teaching you, as I like to say, right? It's such a great opportunity to pause and just say, how can I be better? How can I learn, right? Because our soul has jumped in here to experience and expand. And for me, I love expansion so much that really truly a lot of the people in my life can't really understand how I move so quickly through it. And one, because I worked in the quantum fields, I work through the energy and I collapse time, space, and realities, and move to different dimensions. I live my life multidimensionally. I dance with the universe on a regular basis. I meditate for an hour in the morning and an hour at night. And at the end of the day, I'm still human, right? And all of us need to understand that if we are still in human form, we're still expanding to a greater level of consciousness. Our ultimate goal is Christ consciousness, and the more that we tap into that Christ consciousness, it's such a beautiful gift, because we actually all have that within us. And this is, again, spirituality, yes, but it is more so that we have the power within us. We all have the Christ consciousness. We all have the levels of spiritual maturity that we can actually evolve to, and we can get to. And so let me just start by saying that, like, this week, one, being sick, and two, emotionally and physically, there's a lot of energies going on in the world. I live in the US, and there's an election that has been going on. If anybody doesn't know, and living under a rock, there's been a lot of tensions. There's been a lot of stress around the election. But there's energies that are actually coming into the earth right now that are a higher level of frequency. And we're not used to understanding what they are, because they're newer frequencies that are coming in. And we get to understand that our soul is here to expand, and our soul is moving through a period of, humanity is moving through a period of expansion. And if we look at, from the beginning of time until now of humanity, and how it's evolved from one space to the other, it's such a great gift, because we get to then say, what is life teaching me? And there are some things that happened this week with some people that I'm incredibly, close with in different realms, right? There was things that happened with my business in the last month. There are the things that happened with people that I'm super close with. There are things that happened with, somebody that I spent 7 years of my life with. And so there's always people in your life that are teaching you. And my kids are my greatest teacher on the planet. They are my favorite human beings in this entire world. And we have decided together to go on this journey, as your soul family has decided to, on this journey, to take this beautiful, beautiful story of enlightenment. And that's what I like to see is it's a story of enlightenment, and it's a story of a soul that comes in and says, hey, how can we be better? And how can we expand from where we are? And when we take that approach, as opposed to, wow, you're kind of being, when you're not in the victim mentality, I'm going to soften it a little bit and put it in layman's terms as much as possible for the show. When you're not in victim, and when you understand that when, if you look at humanity as a whole, and you look at every person as a whole, and you look at every situation as a whole, and you look at yourself as the observer, and you look at yourself as how you can grow from that situation, or what are you experiencing in this moment right now, that is a great opportunity for you to move through something, right? And so today's show is really going to be about tips and takeaways to moving from your egoic mind, which is really just your inner child trying to help you. And there's our lower mind and our higher mind, and our higher mind is emotional intelligence, and our higher mind is spirituality, and our higher mind is connected to spirit, God, source, universe, whatever you will allow it to believe. And even if you're not spiritual, guys, again, the show merges spirituality and science together. And so there's science behind all of us. We're the biochemics in our body, the epigenetics, everything that goes on in our body and our energy is truly just science. And so if you don't believe in spirituality, at least take the science component and understand that there's a better version of yourself that you can always tap into, right? And that's what we talk about on this show, is how to get to a place where you're truly ignited and meaning. Like that's what I do with my clients, is I ignite their soul. I never been quiet about that. I'm clairvoyant and clairaudient. I hear, feel, and see things mostly before they happen. I feel energies. I work with the energy fields. I feel others' energies very, very deeply. And I see situations. But what many don't understand is that there's multiple realities and multiple situations, and there's an infinite amount of possibilities that you can actually tap into. And if you look at from a space that everything exists in all dimensions of time and space already, past, present, and future, way high into the quantum realm, which is fine. But you get to move to a different version of you by doing that. And so how do you do that? Right? You notice life as an observer. You notice your life as what's happening. You notice your life of what's going on. You don't take things personally. And so those of you that don't know me, many of you do, many of you don't, have followed me for a while, but I'm turning 50 on Christmas Day. And I don't know what happened this year. I actually do know what happened. I have done diligent spiritual work for the past 12 years now. Since my divorce, I have done deep spiritual work. But what I did understand also is the energetic work too. And I have this insatiable learning. Like, I want to learn about the mysteries of life. I want to, and so this year I've just have such a different approach on my life than I've ever had in my life. And more things have come up in this year than have ever come up total, right? And so I had to deal with deep-rooted fears from my childhood. I had to deep root. I was dealing with other people and the other clients' energies as well. I chose this, right? My soul came in and said, I'm going to be a spiritual leader. I'm going to be open and honest on public TV about spirituality and science. And that's not an easy place to be, right? I mean, if you don't feel comfortable in this space, I'm not the person for you, right? And that's very, very okay. So what we need to do is understand that moving from this spirituality and the gifts of our lives and moving into something that is a higher realm of who you are is really the most important thing that I can teach you guys today. So today we're going to learn about emotional intelligence. We're going to learn about the ego and the mind. We're going to learn about literally moving from a place from the ego and working with the ego and moving through the energies of that. We're going to move into a higher realm, into spiritual maturity. We will literally teach you how to tap into your energy fields, understand what's going on with you in your emotional intelligence, and understand your emotional intelligence from a very, very high perspective. Right. And we will do that all in just a minute. We will be right back. Today, my show is sponsored by my company, Noelle Agape Global, which has a whole different lot of hubs in it of health, wellness, and consciousness. One of the hubs is Infinite Wellness, and that is a hub of all things health, wellness, and consciousness, from yoga to the quantum. We have practitioners that do everything for you all in one place. The next is my Soul on Fire show, and the second hub is my Soul on Fire retreats, where I run retreats around the world where we're actually meditating 1 minute and jumping off a cliff the next. So again, we will be right back, and we're going to go deep into emotional intelligence just a minute. Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here on the live. Thank you so much for being on the replay. My name is Noelle Agape, and I am actually here to tell you about science and spirituality. We're merging science and spirituality to set your soul on fire and ignite the passion within. What we talked about earlier in the first segment is understanding that there's an egoic mind, and then there's a higher mind, right? So there's a lower mind and a higher mind. That today we're going to go deep into our ego. We're going to understand what's going on in our egoic mind. We're going to understand how to move past our ego, or work with our ego to get to a higher level of intelligence, is what I should say. Work with spirituality and understanding that there's a higher realms that you can move into, and higher energetic fields that you can move into. Guys, I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for those that are on the replay. I love and honor you so much, and I appreciate all of you tremendously. So let's talk a little bit about the ego and what that looks like, and how when you're living in your lower mind is very, very different than when you're living in your higher mind. And a higher level of consciousness takes dedication. It takes knowledge, wisdom, love, and dedication, and all of that for yourself. And the most important thing that you have to do when you're working with the ego, and I say working with the ego, never against the ego. We work with the ego to understand that we're moving to a higher plane, to experience and to expand, right? And so when we work with the ego and we move to another dimension of time and space and reality, again, into the quantum worlds, what we can do is we can have, Joe Dispenza, I say all the time, I quote him all the time because he's a genius in this field. You have to have heart coherence and brain coherence. And so when your heart and your brain are in alignment with what's going on, then you can expand and you can move to a higher level of consciousness. Now, the great thing is that wherever you are is perfect. And when you understand that wherever you are is perfect, and there are many things that come up, emotional triggers that come up. There are things that come to show you, and it almost always is going to come from a circumstance, or it's going to come from a person, because that's how we learn, right? We learn through experience. We learn through understanding synchronicities and signs, but also through the higher realms of people and connecting into others' energies. And so this is a little bit of a deeper show than normal, because we're going deep into more of, I don't have a guest today. When I have a guest, I usually highlight whatever their specialty is. So my specialty is the quantum and NLP. So you guys get to go deep today. so the greatest thing about the ego is that it is our inner child. It is our lower mind. And I say all the time, if you have, and those of you that are parents will greatly understand this, but if you have, times where your ego is throwing a temper tantrum, and times that your ego is saying, I am right. This person treated me this way, and this person did this and this, and it's blame, and not taking accountability, and it's blame, and it's putting your foot down, and think about like a 4-year-old when they're having a temper tantrum, right? It truly is. That's when your ego is upset. That's when your ego is triggered. When you get super mad, when you get super depressed, when you get sad, all of those things are working from the lower mind. And your lower mind is really, oh, hey, can you stop and pay attention to me for a minute? Can you stop and pay attention to me for a minute? Hey, I need you to stop and pay attention to me, right? And so when you're activated in that space, you cannot get to a higher realm, right? Because you're so focused on what is going on with you, and you're not actually taking a step back and saying, oh, hey, what's going on with me? Why don't we work together? Hey, fear, I see you. Hey, anger, I really see you. What's going on? Oh my gosh, that person actually really, I'm feeling really hurt right now by that person. That person intimidates me a little bit. It scares me. They're shining their light, or they're actually showing me my darkness, right? And so that's spiritual maturity, guys, is when you can understand a circumstance that's going on in your life, but you don't take it personally, right? And there's always other people involved that when you're in the loop of just looping through, something happened to me and someone has to save me, and I'm going to prosecute them for treating me this way. There's always a bad guy, and there's always a hero, and there's always somebody that needs to be rescued. Or when you take accountability for you and your behavior and your emotions, and you understand that you are the only one in control of your emotions, right? No one is in control of your emotions, and no one is should ever allow anyone else to be in control of theirs, right? And so you're not responsible for how other people act, but they're also not responsible for how you react to them. And I'm going to say that again, guys. You're not responsible for how other people act, but they're not responsible for how you react to them. And so if you get caught up in that loop of interchangeable victimhood, right, it is such a lower mind mentality. And when you make a constant dedication to consciousness, to moving to a higher realm, to changing the energies in your body and the biochemics in your body, and every single cell I'm going to talk a little bit about in the next segment about actually moving from one vibration to another, and you're actually at a vibrational match and manifesting all day every day. And so manifesting is just a natural process that you're doing, and it's your belief systems that your thoughts become your beliefs, and your beliefs become your reality, right? And so the patterns in the belief system, and you have to actually change the patterns energetically. You have to change you have to version of yourself, mind, body, soul, spirit, and energy, to truly become the manifestation that you want to become, right? And so and we'll talk about manifestation and moving past the ego and emotional and spiritual intelligence in the next segment. But with spiritual intelligence, so often when we get hurt by something, and there's so much going on right now in the United States, there's so much going on in the world, there's so many energies that are not loving and kind, right? There's so many energies that are vicious and malicious and vindictive, and this person is doing this, and this person, and if you're ever in blame, you're not in a higher mind. And that's 100%. That may trigger some people, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm always going to speak my truth. And when you're in the moment of competition, or you're in the moment of blame, or you're in the moment of this person hurt me, or I'm super angry, or any of the lower emotions, that everything is a frequency, and when you're connected to whatever frequency is going on in your life, that's what's going to show up in your life. And so how that looks very often, and how that's playing out in society right now, is truly that we are wounded and we need to be rescued, or we are, there's blame, but no one's really taking accountability for what's going on internally. And again, there are circumstances that are beyond our control, and that's part of spiritual maturity, as well as understanding what you can control and what you can't control, right? And manipulating time and space means manipulating time and space for you and your reality, not the more that you work on you, the more that you become a better version of you, you can bring that gift out to the world. Everybody has a beautiful gift that they're here to bring to this world. And the greatest thing is that you get to move from a place of lower consciousness, and move from a place that is just not in a space that is helping anyone. And you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And I'm going to say that again, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And many people think that they're part of the solution, but they're actually invested in the energies of the lower vibrations and the lower frequencies of the planet, and that's part of the problem, right? And so I'm not saying sit back and let people, it's boundaries, not borders, right? And so when you understand that you have boundaries in your life, that's a huge spiritual intelligence, right? To say, oh wow, this person is not treating me the way I want to be treated. I'm going to have discernment, not judgment, right? And so boundaries, not borders, is discernment, not judgment. And that's a huge thing that's talked about in spirituality. Every spiritual master across the board has talked about discernment, right? And how you have to make conscious choices. And especially for you, if you're a leader in this world, and you're making choices that are not conscious, energy doesn't go away, it just gets transmuted, right, guys? So the more that you decide to stay in a higher mind, and the more that you understand that you can literally transmute yourself and become a higher version of yourself. One person in a high vibration, literally, guys, one person in a higher vibration is magnitude thousands and thousands and thousands of people at a lower vibration. And so if you choose to stay in the ego, and if you choose not to do the work, your life will show you. Your life will show you over and over and over again, with different people in different circumstances. The key to spiritual maturity, and again, guys, I have been doing this for a very long time, and I do this for a living, and I do this as a dedication to my life. This is my life purpose. And I am constantly learning from people I love, from people that are around me, from my clients, from my children. I constantly move to a higher realm, always, right? So what does that look like? It looks like making better choices for yourself, right? It makes saying, okay, I actually acted this way in the past? How can I be different? This is actually triggering me. What is it triggering? What's the work that needs to be done on me? And that's going deep into healing the inner child, which is a component that you need to do, right? You actually need to understand and know that with emotional intelligence, you do have to heal your inner child. You can't stay there, guys. And that's the difference, is that when, somebody that is evolved, and somebody that is spiritually, has spiritual maturity, they've moved to a place where things happen and they get triggered and they allow it and they understand, and then they learn from it, right? And so often they're the best form of a mirror is relationships. So the people that are closest to you in your life mostly will teach you, or there's people in your life that will trigger you on purpose, right? So emotional triggers are such a part of the ego, and moving past the ego, but understanding that you can work with it. You can say, welcome it, right? And this is not an easy thing to do. Wow, I'm in blame right now. Or, wow, I'm in judgment right now. Or I'm in anger and I'm really angry, and allow that to be angry, and allow that voice to be heard, and allow your ego to have a voice, and not a voice of vindication or malicious or attacking, a voice of understanding and observing, right? And so when you decide that, I have made a conscious choice that in the last, and those of you that know me for years and years and years probably have seen the difference within me in the last year, is that I absolutely get into my ego, guys. There is no question in my mind. I am a type A. I'm an athlete. I have, I work my ass off. Sorry. I work my really, really, really hard. My standards are extremely hard, extremely high. It's very hard sometimes for people to be in my life because my standards are so high. Yet that is my life's journey, right? My life's journey is to soften. My life's journey is to be more in the divine feminine. My life's journey is to not be so aggressive. And what I used to do is just show, I feel, hear, and see everything, and I just show everybody their shadow and be like, it's not mine. But now, like, I show people their shadow because that's what I do for a living. Sorry, I do. I show people their shadows, and I stop and I say, but why is this showing up in my life? What can I learn? How can I be kinder? How can I be softer? How can I understand their perspective? How can I appreciate the person for who they are and not for the thing that's happening in their life right now, right? And so if you look at something from the observer, and you look at someone from the observer, and just come to a point of forgiveness for yourself, forgiveness for the circumstance, forgiveness for the person that hurt you, and come to a point of acceptance, and use it as a teaching tool. That is the greatest way to move into emotional intelligence. That's the greatest way to move through the ego into spiritual maturity, right? And again, the ego is not a bad thing. It's not good, bad, or indifferent. Nothing is good, bad, or indifferent. It just exists, right? And so I'm going to use a couple examples in my life, and just primarily because it's easier for people to understand, not because I want to talk about myself, primarily just because of, I go through life, and turning 50 is a really big deal for me. And I'm going to get super emotional for a minute. And this has nothing to do with age. This has nothing to do with anything. I just feel like I've lived a half a century, really. And in that half a century, if I didn't take the accountability and responsibility for the next half a century that I'm going to live, the next 50 years of my life, that I get to teach, I get to show people from a place of beautiful intelligence, of spiritual maturity, that there is a greater way. There is an easier way. There is a better version of you, your soul's purpose. And it just clicked for me this year. And that's why I'm getting so emotional, is that it clicked for me this year that it's never just about me, right? I was so in my ego. I was so, having spiritual gifts is a responsibility. And it was, I have helped many, many lives, and I will never take away from the work that I did. But even up until just recently, and even up until just last night and the night before, that my ego shows me all the time. And there was a moment on my journey, guys, and this is raw and real and full transparency, that I had that egoic spiritual maturity where I had such a knowledge of spirituality and the quantum fields and energy that I thought I was above people. And that's, I promise you, that's not the space that I'm in at all anymore. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. I'm so humbled by my gifts, and I'm so humbled by the greatness that comes through me. And this has nothing to do with me, guys. And I promise you that if you know me, you understand that I am humbled because my gifts are not my own. My gifts are, God's source, the universe that comes through me to help humanity. And so I am humbled and grateful, so grateful on a daily basis that I get to help humanity. I get to love on the highest realm. I get to see people from a different perspective. I get to know the things that I have gone through in the past and understand that I don't need to have those in my life anymore. I get to understand that moving in a direction of spiritual growth and spiritual maturity means that I can love someone even if they don't love me. I can honor someone even if they're not honoring themselves or me. I don't have to, again, discernment and judgment. I don't have to partake in what they're doing, but I can still find love, right? And that's what society is missing so much as a whole today, with everything that's going on, especially in the United States. We're lacking empathy. We're lacking love. We're bashing humans. We're taking down people for being a different political party than us, that being a different race than us, that being a different many people I have in the entire year that I've 18 years that I've been doing this, going into the 18 years that I've been doing this, I've had more hate against me than I've ever had in my entire life, because I speak spirituality and I speak science and I speak alternate realities and realms and things that are not the norm, and I speak beyond the mysteries of life, and it's not an easy thing to come publicly and say that there's a better way to do it than what we've been doing it. And because I promise you that there are many people that don't like you to grow. There are many people that want to keep you small because that allows them to be big. And that is such a lower mind thinking. And again, when we stop and we look from a place of consciousness, and we look from a place of, we all have gifts and we all have something to bring to the world. And even the darkest of the dark is there to show us the lightest of the light. And when we live in that realm, and when we understand that there is murder and hate and things that are happening, real life things that are happening in this world, and when we come from love, we can heal everything. And many people have many different views on this. And I would never say your view is better than mine or my view is better than yours. It's just different, right? And so how people approach the egoic mind, how people approach the circumstances that come up in their lives, you have to honor that. And you cannot put them down for that, unless they're physically hurting someone or taking away from somebody. That is, we've become a society and humanity of take and instead of give, and we always give thinking that we're going to receive, right? And so I just want to invite you to do one thing today, and maybe just think from a place of, how can I give someone something, even if it's a smile, a hug, love, when you expect nothing in return. That is one of the hardest things you can probably ever do in your life. And it is probably one of the highest forms of spirituality that you could do, connecting to your higher self, understanding that you give to somebody without expecting a thing in return. You can love someone without expecting them to love you back. You can guide someone without judgment. You can show someone the way without being abrasive, right? If we take a softer approach, if we get into our heart space, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit, is if we go into our heart space and we say, what was that person thinking? When this conversation was triggered, the situation was triggered, What was that person thinking? What am I thinking? Is this showing me that I'm actually not acting worthy? Is it showing me that I don't feel loved or lovable? And is it showing me that I don't feel safe right now? Is it showing me that something in my past hasn't been healed, that I have more work to do, right? And so if we come from that space of humanity, if we come from the place of love, if we come from the place of moving into a state of knowing that the ego and your triggers and your emotions are there, energy in motion, right? It's whatever is going on in your world. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, there is nothing, not one thing going on in your external world that is not going on in your internal world. I'm going to say that again. And so many people talk about this. There is not one thing that is happening in your external world that is not going on in your internal reality. So many people talk about creating your reality and understanding and manifesting, but they don't understand the depths of it. They don't understand the spirituality of it. They don't understand the emotional intelligence of it, right? They only look at it like, what can I get from that manifestation? How do I produce that car or that guy or that person or this circumstance? How do I generate that? How do I make that happen? Because they're not actually taking a step back and saying, whoa, okay, I actually really want that. So that's my soul is pulling me in that direction, right? But I promise you guys, if you stop and say, why do I want that? Does that bring me joy or is it an addiction, right? Because you can be addicted to people, you can be addicted to phone calls, you could be addicted to sex, you could be addicted to alcohol, you could be addicted to if somebody likes you on Instagram or something like that. It's called dopamine and it's called serotonin and oxytocin, and it's stored in our gut. And when it's triggered, it goes shots to the brain, and it's a happy pill that gets shot to the brain because you feel loved or you feel safe in that moment or you feel worthy in that moment, right? Take a step back. Say, why do I want this? I actually want this because this person's beautiful, or I want this because it actually brings me joy. And guys, I'm not going to lie. I love luxury. I absolutely love beauty and I love luxury. And those are two things that are really just important and fun for me to have in my life. I don't need them. And that's the difference, is that I love them and I want them, but I don't need them. And the difference between codependency, trigger word, I know that. Codependency in a realm of, you have addictions to, somebody says something nice to you that gives you a shot of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin into the brain. Somebody says something nice to you. Somebody says you look beautiful. Somebody says you look smart. So the way people make you feel is the biochemicals that go on your body, but your feelings are just showing you, oh, hey, this actually makes me feel good, but am I doing this? Am I wanting this for a good reason of higher realm? What can I do with this information? I actually love this person from my soul, because the guys, you know that I love from my soul, right? I live from my heart and I love from my soul. I always ask myself, is this relationship for the greatest and highest good? My prayer in the morning, I meditate for an hour in the morning. I set my intentions, and in the evening, I clear my energy, right? Is, God, can you show me how to be a better version of me than I was yesterday? Today, this happened. And like at night, today, this happened and I wasn't my best. How can I be better tomorrow? How can this be for the greatest version of everybody that's all involved, the greatest and highest and good, right? And what are these desires? Are they real? Are they from you? Are they coming through you to bring out to humanity? Are they here to change me? Are they here to enhance my gifts? Are they here to bring somebody else's gifts out? Are they here to its guidance? Be inquisitive with your ego. And the more that you are inquisitive and the more you're curious and the more that you want to learn about what's going on with the situation, and the more you have an inner relationship with yourself, the better your relationships are with others. So I will be right back. We're going to talk a little bit about manifestation process and tapping into that. We're going to talk a little bit more about relationships and how they're mirrors. We're going to talk about how truly, when you understand the energetics of the relationships between souls, you'll understand what the next step is. So we will be right back, guys, and hold Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here on the live, and thank you for those that are watching the replay. My name is Noelle Agape, and we are here to merge science, spirit, and spirituality to set your soul on fire and ignite the passion within. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I appreciate you. On the earlier segments, we talked about emotional intelligence, spiritual maturity, and how to move through the ego and work with the ego into emotional intelligence and spiritual maturity. We learned about understanding that when you have a relationship with others and you have a relationship with yourself, it's showing you all day, every day. So right now, I want to talk to you a little bit about what relationships look like, right? And how relationships are mirrors. We did talk about that a little bit in a minute, but there are some massive spiritual gifts. And when you understand what true relationships are there to push you towards expansion. Every relationship, whether it is our president, which we don't really know which one it is yet, or somebody that's super intimate with you. Every relationship is showing you how you could grow spiritually. Every relationship is showing you how you can move out of your ego into spiritual maturity. It could be Bob down the street. It could be the mailman. It could be the person that cuts you off in front of you. How you react with others is always, always, always an opportunity for you to grow. Let me even say that in a better way, guys, because one of the things that I have to learn, I have on my journey, on my soul's journey, is reacting, right? Because I am I make shit happen. I really do. And I get things done. I have incredibly high standards. I'm a very difficult energy. I'm going to say that. I'm a unicorn in one breath and a wild horse in another. And it's not easy for many to be around me because I see souls and I see darkness and I show people the darkness. But to me, I work so much into the darkness that it's like, oh, okay, there's fear. Yeah. Okay, I guess we're going to have a bout with fear today. Oh, ooh, there's abandonment. Oh, we're going to do abandonment today. Okay. Whereas others aren't comfortable with that, right? And so in my life lesson is really, truly understanding the we, right? Moving from me to we is my north node, and that's my destiny, and your south node is your karma that you have to heal. A whole different show. But really, guys, relationships are spiritual. And when you look at relationships as spiritual, whether it is your children, whether it is somebody that is your partner in life, whether it is you love differently, when you see that soul came in and said, no, hey, I'm going to teach you that, right? I mean, right now, our souls are all getting taught about humanity, right? Across the world, we're getting taught what it is to actually be a kind human, what it is to actually look like to live in spiritual consciousness, what it is to evolve and have Christ consciousness. We're being taught on such a high scale right now. And so the energetics of emotion is, your thoughts is the electro, and the magnetic is your emotion, right? So you have to understand that when you're manifesting all day, every day, you do manifest all day, every day. Your thoughts and your electromagnetic field, which is your energetic field, and what you're emanating out into the world is what really the reality that you get to jump into and live. And again, there's different dimensions of time and space in the quantum world, and another different show, right? For this show, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and how important it is to understand and have an awareness of where you are and have just discernment and judgment, right? And so you can love someone tremendously and they be making really terrible choices in your life, and you have to understand that the thoughts that are going on in your mind are the electro, and then the emotions, the heightened state of emotions is the magnetic. So electromagnetic is your thoughts and your heightened state of emotion. If your heightened state of emotion is anger, that's what you're going to emanate out into the world. And somehow, some way that will come back to you. Karma doesn't go away, right? And so karma doesn't go away. And that's a whole nother episode, which I actually think I'm going to do next week because it's super important. But you can't put something out to the universe and expect something different back. So your thoughts and your beliefs and your patterns that are going on in your mind, if you do not change them, if you do not become a greater version of you, if you do not completely change your personality, if you do not become aware of when you're hurting people and hurting yourself, if you don't become aware of when people are hurting you and you're still allowing it, if you're not changing your behavior, right? And again, this is growth in process. We are growth in process, guys. We get to expand on a daily basis. We get to move to a different version of who we are on a daily basis. We get to make a conscious choice of doing that. We get to choose. The difference between an egoic mind and a spiritual mature mind doesn't just come with age. It comes with choice, right? And I don't know what it is about me turning 50 next month, but I know that I never want to hurt anybody ever again. I know that I've hurt many people in the past, and I know that there are moments where I get into my ego and I get into my go mode, and it's not comfortable for someone, or it's not safe for someone, and I push further than they want to be pushed, and I know I have to apologize, and I get into the point where I get hurt, a lot less where I get hurt and I get triggered and attack people. I never really attack people anymore. I sometimes emotionally vomit all over people, but I don't ever really attack them anymore, primarily because it's just not a good vibration to be in, and primarily because it lowers my frequency when I'm attacking someone else, and then someone's going to come back and attack me, right? And so if I can teach you anything on this beautiful hour that we have together, and thank you for your time and thank you for your energies and being with me, is just the electromagnetic field, right? Your heightened sense of emotion, right? If you go into your heart space and just take a minute right now, just close your eyes and go into your heart space. Ask yourself about a situation that happened in this life, this week. What's actually going on? I want you to ask yourself, what am I thinking about this? What am I feeling about this? What's truly going on? What can this teach me? If I were an observer and I was watching this on a movie screen, what would be going on in that person? Because you never know what's going on with the other people, guys. You never know what's going on with the other people, and you're not responsible for them. You're only responsible for you. But the more you heal you, the more you emanate out a frequency that is higher, that we get to change that frequency, and we get to literally emanate love at a higher frequency, right? People keep me in check all the time, and thank God, because I would be so in my ego if I didn't have a coach, if I didn't have friends that kept me in check. I had a circumstance this week that somebody that I love from my soul was like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. And I had to pull back and say, whoa, I'm actually massively in my ego, and whatever I'm doing is pushing them and hurting them, and maybe it's going to push both of us to grow, yet they're not comfortable. And so I'm going to pull back a little bit, and I'm just going to love from my soul. And I actually started to cry, because I realized it was such a spiritual gift for both of us when I took a step as an observer, and I was like, wow, I get to heal this. And that person gets to heal that as well, if they choose to. And that's the choice, guys, is that free will doesn't, there's a whole big thing out in religion about free will, and free will doesn't actually even exist, because there's parallel universes and you just choose the universe you want to be in. And it's between you and God, you and the universe, you and source, you and it has nothing to do with the other person. What's going on in your life has nothing to do with other people. It has everything to do with what your frequency that you're attached to, has everything to do with the fact that you get to move to a different version of yourself. Because I promise, if you help you and you heal yourself in that situation, I promise you, within minutes, within days, within years, it doesn't matter. The person doesn't need to be involved for you to heal yourself. And the energy, when you shift your energy within you, it shifts the energy as a ripple effect, right? And I need you to hear that. When you shift the energy within you, it's a ripple effect. So stop and put your hands on your heart and feel what's going on. Get a notepad, do the inner work, sit down and have a conversation with your soul, have a conversation with your ego, have a conversation with you and the greatest version of you, and bring that energy in and say, hey, what would I look like if my electromagnetic fields were radiating at a higher frequency? What would it look like if I literally tapped into a higher version of myself? What would I look like? How would I handle this situation differently? How would I handle this situation from a place of spiritual maturity, not from ego? That's how you approach it. If you literally say, just write everything down, mind dump, right? When you get out of your head and into your heart, your electromagnetic fields are 1,000 times more powerful than they are in your heart. You manifest from what's going on in you. But if you come into your heart center, I promise you, your heart will always know the truth. Is this hurting someone? Is this helping someone? Is this hurting me? Is it helping me? When do I have to have discernment, not judgment, right? And judgment was something that I had to learn tremendously about, because I've been granted with insane gifts that are not mine. And when people didn't have the level of spiritual maturity that I did, there was often judgment behind it. But now there's discernment, right? They're not really making bigger choices. I need to step aside. Oh, this is hurting someone. I actually need to step back a little bit. I'm going to work on me over here, me doing me. And they get to work on themselves. The most important thing I can tell you about spiritual and maturity and emotional intelligence, guys, is it's never about anybody else. It's never about anybody else. It's about your relationship with you and your higher self and God and source. And I promise you that when you do the internal work and when you look within, and it is not an easy journey. 18 years, $750,000 in personal development and growing my business of spiritual development. Many, 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 many lessons daily. I still have a coach. I still have friends that keep me in check. I still do the work. Why? Because of my dedication to my spiritual maturity, my dedication to work with my ego to expand and experience this life on a higher realm. If you're not experiencing life on the way that you want to experience life, you get to choose. You get to choose to live differently. You get to understand that you could sit down and get raw and real with you. And when I mean raw and real, guys, I don't mean like, oh, I'm afraid of that. I mean like, oh, this is fear. And I got a massive fear of commitment. I got a fear of abandonment. I've got a fear of loss. And this is my 4-year-old inner child. And if I left a 4-year-old alone in my house and came back for hours, how would that be? Your mind, your body, and your soul is your house. You are a vessel, right? You are a spiritual vessel that God, source, universe comes through you. You get to bring everything out into the world. You get to experience this life at a higher level. You get to have happiness. You get to have health. You get to have love. You get to experience all of that. And you get to have a conversation with God and source in the universe and say, this is not working for me. What can I do better? And you have to understand that you can't sit and meditate and expect something to fall into your lap. You actually have to take inspired action, meaning you have to do the internal work. You have to readjust your energy fields. You have to actually work with the electromagnetic fields and manipulate time and space. But then you actually have to take action in the 3D. You actually have to move to a different version of myself. If I were the better version of myself, what decision would be made right now? If I were moving into a higher state of consciousness, if I had emotional intelligence, if I had spiritual maturity, and I wanted to literally be better, how would I handle this differently? What can I do right now in this moment? Because there's always an action that you can be taken to be a better version of yourself. And if you don't see that, then that's where the disconnect comes, right? If you don't see that you have to take accountability for your actions, you hurt people. Take accountability for that. You're a shithead. Take accountability for that. Apologize. Apology is one of the greatest vibrations in the planet. And there's the prayer at the Ho'oponopono. It's, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And it has nothing to do with the circumstances or the people. It has everything to do with you and raising your vibration. And so understanding that if you take accountability for hurting someone and just apologize, even if it wasn't with intent to hurt them, just be better. Be better, guys. Live better. Be a better human. And I say this all the time, and I say it in jest, and it's not judgmental. Because why? My expectations of myself, I could never do this for a living if my goal every single day wasn't to be a better human. Just be a better human. Because honestly, guys, humanity needs us more now than ever. We are destroying ourselves. We are destroying each other. Because we're not being kind. We're not coming from love. We're not coming from a place of emotional intelligence, spiritual maturity. We think we are, often, but most of the time it's from our ego. How are you doing that? Right? Stop. Just stop that. Be better. I promise you guys, the second that you sit down and say, I'm going to have a conversation with my ego, I'm going to have a conversation with my spirituality, I'm going to have a conversation with my body, I'm going to have a conversation with my finances, I'm going to have a conversation with my loved one, an actual conversation, and tell someone what scares the shit out of me. I'm going to tell someone that. I'm going to tell someone something that has kept, I've been holding in for a very long time, that I know that I have to tell. I'm going to tell myself a situation of something that I can be better, right? Have a relationship with your ego. Have a relationship with your emotional intelligence. Have a relationship with your thoughts. Have a relationship with your energy. Have a relationship with your mind. Have a relationship with God, source, the universe. If you don't believe in spirituality, have a relationship with your higher self. Because everyone that is ever going to be watching this show, there is a better version of you out there. You are the most powerful being in the universe. You get to tap into that. You have gifts that are so beyond belief. You can shine brighter than you've ever shined. You can love harder than you've ever loved. It's not out there. It is in here. Look within. I'm asking you. I'm begging you, because humanity needs you. Look within. I promise you guys, the moment that you understand that the power is within you to change your life, the power is within you and God and source and the universe, and you get to experience, you get to live this life. You get to be a better version of you every single day. I promise you there will be an opportunity every single day, every day, to be better. I promise you that there is an opportunity for you to know and understand who you are. Guys, if this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. We want to get this message out to as many people as possible. We want everyone to understand that there is a better version of themselves. We want people to understand that there is now, this is the time. This is the time for change. This is the moment for change. You are powerful. You are wonderful. You get to change. I love you guys, and I am so beyond appreciative of you. And I am so grateful in every breath that I have that you're watching me on this journey. I love you guys, and have a great, great night, and I'll see you in the next video.